All right. Well, welcome on in. The title of this speech here is The 60 Mile Ultra, How It Made Me a Better Dentist. My name is Dr. Trent Neisen. I'm a proud fellow of the FAGD and of the FICOI. And yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll get rolling. So I guess the first thing I want to say is thank you guys. Our time is very precious, and I'm grateful that you've trusted me with an hour of your time. All the books I'm currently reading just talk about the importance of time. I've been reading 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, talking about just kind of roughly how many weeks we have in our life. I've been reading Die with Zero, which is a book really talking about maximizing life experience. Looks like I see some nods and recognize that one. And then the other one that I currently just finished is Buy Back Your Time. So you're seeing this theme. So I really do see that time is very precious. So it's time for me. I'm glad that you've trusted me with some of your time, and I really want to maximize it. So some of my favorite Netflix series, they seem like the show starts and it brings you into like the thick of the action, and you're like wondering like what's going on, and it brings you like to the peak, and then it says, let's back up and explain it. I'm going to do the same thing. So if I were to set the stage for you and bring you into the headspace of where I was, the status report would be as follows. The date, Saturday, October 7th, 2023. Location, Winona, Minnesota. The time that this picture was taken was about 3:35 p.m. Central Standard Time. The distance I had ran at this point in that day was 46.2 miles. What I had left to complete was 13.8. Pain at this point I would classify as moderate. Fatigue level high. And at this point of the journey, my motivation would definitely be categorized as low. And you guys are probably wondering, what is going on? So we're going to back up. And I'm going to take you back to February 26, 2022. Maybe it's a significant day for you, but the only significant part for me was the furthest I had ever run as of that date at one time was 5 miles. And so my goal today is to not try and impress you with what I've done. If all you take away from this is, I don't know, there's some guy and he ran a bunch of miles and he did that, I didn't do my job. My goal really today with this is to really impress upon you kind of what's possible for your career and your personal life. And really when it comes down to it, what I want to just, the theme that I'm kind of sharing with this is, if I could go from running 5 miles to 60 miles in like a year and a half, I'm going to hit you with a heavy one right away. What are you capable of accomplishing with your one wild and precious life? Oof. So this is me, like I said, fellow of the FAGD and the ICOI, which is the International Congress of Oral Implantologists. 2018 dental school grad. I completed an AEGD in Mesa, Arizona the year after. And I took the plunge into private practice ownership right here and bought this office in 2020. Rebranded it under the name of Authentic Dental of Willmar in 2021. This is my family. This is my wife, Hope, my best friend, my travel partner, my business partner, my everything. I'm very blessed. And let me go back one. And that's our daughter, Mila, who changes by the day and by the week. And she's funny. Our big things right now are we are playing a lot of games like Elsa matching. We got to match all the little Frozen characters. And she loves that. So, but yes, she is just truly my passion. I didn't know what a sucker I was going to be as a dad until I became one. This is our office, Authentic Dental of Willmar. Obviously, frostier, the frostier time of year. I definitely enjoy the sunnier time. And a lot of my clinical passions are dental implants, 3D printing, and smiles. These are all areas that I'm passionate about, areas that I'm constantly learning and growing and learning more with. So, my mission for today. My mission is to share my 3 biggest takeaways from running a 60-mile ultramarathon to help inspire you to accomplish amazing things in both your personal and your dental life. Bold statement, right? So that is my goal to deliver on that. So, my 3 biggest takeaways that I took away from running this race, and my goal is to, like I said, share with you both run-based and also just career-based too. And I really want you to get a lot from it. The first biggest takeaway that I took away from this was setting ambitious goals. The second principle is the power of plus 1%. And the third is to stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself. Not in a unhealthy way of the person who's talking to themselves, but controlling that self-dialogue that takes place between your ears. So here we go. On December 19th, 2021, I set out what I thought was a very ambitious goal. And I said, you know what? 2022 is the year that I am going to run a half marathon. And under the run column, I'm going to check that off, and that's going to be a bucket list item done. And so May of 2022, I crossed that off, finishing in an hour 48:39. And I was happy with it, and I was proud of it. I did it. And I was happy for about 2 days. And then I just got this hankering. I'm like, I don't know if I can this isn't it. I felt like, I don't know if I can I don't think I can call this mission accomplished until I check off the full thing. So on a whim, under-prepped, under-prepared, 2 days later, I signed up for Grandma's Marathon. It was less than a month away. And I upped my ambitious goal to completing a full marathon. I don't advise this, but I trotted, crawled, humbly made it, and I would call this one a finish. And I did make it across the finish line and completed that. I've done 2 more since then, and I've actually shaved almost, this last one I just did in June, I shaved about 50 minutes off. I've learned a lot about this marathon thing. But the biggest thing was setting that ambitious goal. And if we go then to July 23rd of 2023, the crazy ambitious goal that I set out at that date was to run 60 miles. I'll go into more of the details of why I picked that and kind of the reasoning behind it. But basically, I came up with this idea to pair it with a fundraising event. My goal was to call it 60 for the Starving, to raise $6,000. My goal was to run 60 miles and raise $6,000 for a nonprofit that helped those in need. But it all started with that one, then started with just setting that goal. I'm gonna have a lot of quotes in here. I love quotes. I share quotes with my team all the time. And the first quote I want to share with you is this: make no little plans, for they have no magic to stir men's blood. This is an old quote from Daniel Burnham. And I'm gonna even add my own quote with this. So not only make no little plans, until you infuse some commitment, your goal will remain just a mere idea. And I'm gonna go into a lot of how I want you guys to start thinking. But I'm gonna give a couple examples of going from this idea to concrete goal or concrete commitment. I had to dig back in my email archives, and I found this email from December 19th, 2021 at 3:08 p.m. That was when the idea of someday running a half marathon became the goal of, this is the year that I cross this off. And I could have flaked on it, I don't know, $75 entry fee or whatever it might be. With inflation now, they're like $100. But that was when that solidified for me this faint idea of someday, sometime, to I'm doing this in May. And I made it happen. And I also had this idea of someday I wanted to become a father, and an amazing father. That was my goal. And that became an abstract someday and sometime. But until Monday, October 18th, 2021, at 10:07 p.m., that is where things went from this mere idea of someday becoming a father to meeting Mila Jo for the first time. This is the first picture I have of me holding her. And that's when it got real. That's when this idea of, okay, someday I'm gonna become a father, to it's here and it's showtime. Yeah, look at this. She's a lot bigger than now. She's got a lot more attitude now. So, and the last part of this one is I had this faint idea in my head. I was like, hey, I want to go do this long race, yada, yada, yada. But until I made this post and set up the GoFundMe and claimed to the world, I said, and planted my flag, said, all right, I'm going to go after this thing. My goal is to raise $6,000. My initial goal was have $3,000 raised from people who donated, and I was going to donate the other $3,000. And goal is to run 60 miles. But it was until I made that commitment and I said, oh shoot, I got to make this happen now. I got to show up this day. I can't just back out, and I had to get serious about it. So, and that's how the 60 for the Starving got born. So that's really that principle of setting the ambitious goals on the run side. What I want to share with you next is something from the dental side. And this is very specific to me. So, you're going to resonate with this one. This is me, May 10th, graduation day 2018. My wife by my side, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And I got those 3 letters behind my name and a mountain of debt to go with it. I don't remember what my loan balance was this day, but I do remember this day. I sat down, added it all up. My wife's student loans and mine, she accounted for like $35 of it. But when we sat down and added it all up on this date, I sat at $368,093.38. And I was like, oof, that's a mountain, and I didn't know how I was going to attack it. But I got this crazy idea, kind of inspired by some other dentists who had done it. And I came to my wife with the ambitious goal of saying, what if we paid this all off by January 1 of 2023? I said, the ambitious goal will be we put all of our focus into this, we pour all of our efforts into this, and we get this thing gone by January 1. At first she thought I was crazy. And I didn't share this with a lot of people, but most people, when I did tell them I was going after this, they looked a lot like this. And a funny story about this photo, when I lived in Arizona, I snuck home for Thanksgiving and told my mom we weren't going to be able to make it. And what you are seeing is, and then my wife was taking a video, and I was on the phone, and basically I rung the bell, said that somebody was delivering something, and instead it was us completely surprising her from taking a red-eye flight and showing up. But that's kind of the expression that most people saw when they said to do that. Somebody told me this: I think you should pick a more realistic goal. Many of your peers have the goal of paying this off in 10 to 15 years. I'll keep this person I'll keep them anonymous. So if we were to fast forward 573 days and a lot of hard work later, will bring us to March 18th of 23. Didn't quite make the January 1 timeframe. We opted for tax reasons to push it into the next year. But that brought us to this day. I gotta turn the sound up. Of our student loans. Basically, I just announced that we're paying off the last chunk of it, and we did it. It was a long road. It wasn't easy. We definitely made a lot of sacrifices along the way. But we made that happen. Like I said, a couple months over our time frame. And I'm not saying that to brag, or I'm not even telling you that that's what you should do. But the biggest thing I want to go to you now is, what ambitious goal or goals do you need to set? This first round of goals is going to have, obviously you can see I kind of have a fitness and a running passion to that. You know, maybe it's a 5K that you're going to start with. Maybe you feel the calling like I did to start with a half marathon. Maybe it could be to finish a marathon. Like I said, I'll consider that first one a finish, not a triumph. You know, maybe it's competing in a triathlon. Maybe it's tackling a Tough Mudder obstacle race. Maybe it's getting to your ideal body weight. Maybe it's just becoming your best self. Whatever that means for you. I can't go inside your head and know what you're thinking, but honestly, it might be something that right off the bat kind of like scares you a little bit. It might be something that you are afraid to tell somebody about because you've had this idea. But I'm going to challenge you to think about that. And I'm also going to bring it from a dentistry side too. You know, maybe that ambitious goal is finishing, you know? I think that is for you guys specifically, that's definitely accomplishment number one. Get that DDS behind your name. That's definitely the gateway. It could be thriving in your first associateship if you're a young dentist. As you progress, it could be, you know, taking the leap to learn how to place dental implants. And it could be buying your own dental practice. It could be learning IV sedation and adding that skill set. You know, maybe it's a threshold if you're already in practice, it could be a threshold of hitting a first, you know, $100,000 month or collections or whatever that threshold might be as an office. Paying off your student loans like I did. Going to a 3-day clinical week, which is the reason I put this in here, is this is what I'm currently in the midst of right now. That's the ambitious goal that I'm pursuing. And you know, whatever that means for you, you know, right now, whatever ambitious goal that means for you. So my challenge to you is to sit about, you know, I want you to go home with this today, is to think about this. I want you to think about, you know, what is one ambitious personal goal? And that, like I said, it doesn't have to be necessarily fitness related, but something with your personal life, and something I want you to start thinking about. And I want you to swing for the fence. I want you to start thinking big for the professional goal. I'll be honest, a lot of things I'm doing right now, I probably wasn't even thinking this big. You know, I sat in your guys' shoot. I've had many steps of thinking big of where I'm at, but I want you to think big for where you're at. Kind of going back to that first question, what are you capable of accomplishing with your one wild and precious life? We're gonna move on to my second big takeaway, and that is the power of plus 1%. So if we go back to February 2022, the longest run that I had completed at that time was 5 miles. And slowly but steadily, I got my longest run completing one time in October of 2023 of 60 miles. And that whole journey from 5 to 60 was not overnight. It was built, you know, it was brick by brick, mile by mile, workout by workout, day by day, slowly but steadily improving. Quote I want to share for this principle of plus 1% is this: small, seemingly insignificant improvements lead to staggering achievements over time. This is from author Robin Sharma, and I love this quote. I have this on my wall at home. And this whole plus 1% thing, it's more than just like a slogan or a catchphrase for me, so much that I tattooed it on my wrist as this reminder / North Star for me on how I live my life. And, you know, what does it ultimately mean to me? Every day, I am striving to improve every aspect of me, you know, by 1%. That's me as a father, me as a husband, as a dentist, a boss, you know, all of it. Do I hit that mark? Not even close. But that is my compass that I'm striving for. I'm trying to get, like I said, in each one of those areas, I'm trying to improve. And like I said, this is just my subtle reminder on. Sometimes I forget it's there, and I have a patient say, "Hey, what's that tattoo on your wrist? What's the symbolism behind that?" So that's what I wanted to share with you. And that power of plus 1%, going from the date that I said I'm going to run this half, I started with a 1 mile run, and a 2 mile run, and a 4 mile run, and onward and onward and onward. And it kept racking up into completing that half, to a 16 mile training run, an 18, 22, finishing the marathon, and on and on. And mile after mile, my confidence in my abilities grew. I kind of earned that with every step that I progressed. And then I found this. This race was called Storm of the Day, and this takes place, like I said, down in Winona. And a little bit about it is just basically, it's a simple race. It starts at sunrise and it ends at sunset. Basically, you have a 2.5 mile loop around this place and through the woods. And basically, you repeat this as many times as possible, or you feel so desired to do so, until the timer runs out at sunset. And this whole +1% got me thinking. I asked myself the same question: what are you capable of accomplishing with your one wild and precious life? And it really got me thinking, how far could I go in 12 hours if I just start improving 1% at a time? And I started thinking, like, you know, I had done some of these training runs. I'm like, literally, like, what if my whole focus for an entire day is to see how far I can go? And like I said, that's, you know, and that started improving just 1% at a time. I want to share a dental specific example now of this +1% principle. I'm going to take you back to July of 2019. On the right side, you will see an x-ray. And this might not make too many highlight reels or magazines, but this was my very first implant that I ever placed in my AEGD residency program. The surgery duration was definitely too long. Confidence level I would describe at this appointment as shaky. Didn't place it quite deep enough. You know, I would say honestly, the oral surgeon maybe gave me a little too much leeway. Maybe he had more faith in me on this first visit than he should have. We didn't hit any other roots or go into the sinus or anything like that, but we finished it. And that was my starting point. And then I'm going to bring you to this x-ray. So this x-ray is from May of 2024, from this year, of a dual arch all-on-X implant prosthetic that I finished. I did the whole thing. I took the teeth out, placed the implants, 3D printed the temporaries, and went all the way to making the zirconia final teeth for him. For this case, I placed a total of 9 implants for the top and the bottom. And I would put my confidence level as I finished this case, I would say solid. I was very confident in my abilities during this one, and I'm also very proud of the outcome that we got. So just like I didn't go from 5 to 60 overnight, I didn't go from that first shaky single implant to this dual arch implant case. That far from it. That definitely wasn't overnight. That was built same way, brick by brick, case by case, and day by day. This is that case right here. We can kind of see where this gentleman started and where we finished. Same thing here. And if I were to map my trajectory from starting first one in residency to finishing that one in May of 2024, yeah, I bet you that path looked probably something like this. You know, there was big wins along the way, there was progress, there was implant courses, there was setbacks, you know, there was probably some failures, there was some unhappy patients, there was, you know, a lot of bumps in the road along there. There was probably areas of stagnant growth where I really wasn't learning and growing. But I guarantee if you looked at it on the big scale, that's probably what my path looked like. And that path maybe more descriptively looked like placing that first one. And then it was finishing the residency. And then I got out and worked as an associate, and I started placing some single implants. And then I took my first big implant course. This photo was taken at Implant Pathway in 2021. So I went and did that. And then I started to learn how to 3D print my own surgical guides. And then I took another implant course. And then I started doing some locator denture cases. And then I took another implant course. And then we started to level up our marketing. And then I started to reach out to mentors and asking how to take these steps to the next level. And then I invested in technology called photogrammetry. And then ultimately that got us to be able to do, like I said, a lot of these same day, all on X, pull all the teeth, put in all implants, and deliver a 3D printed screwed in temporary. Same thing here, just step by step. My confidence in my abilities grew with each passing one. And like I said, it wasn't all sunshine. There was definitely some ups, but there definitely was some setbacks along the way too. So we're gonna go back to you guys now. How can you incorporate the power of this plus 1% principle into your personal and your dental life? You know, starting on the fitness side or the endurance side, the journey to a half marathon, that might start with a half-mile walk. Competing in a triathlon, that might literally start with a 10-minute bike ride or Peloton ride. Doing a tough mutter, that might start with literally like 5 push-ups. You know, losing 50 pounds, that might start with literally 1 meal that you're choosing to eat next. Becoming your best self, that starts with literally with 1 choice. And whatever your personal plus 1%, you can go right there. Let's go over to the dental side. This first one, I would say resonates with you guys. Finishing dental school, that starts, you know, for you guys, that starts with finishing tomorrow. All right, you know what? We're gonna make the best. We're gonna crush tomorrow. You know, if you start, I don't know, maybe you guys got a countdown going. I don't know, but that starts with a day or a week, and keep putting one foot in front of the other. You know, like I said, the placing implants, that starts with maybe just 1 course when you're out practicing, or starts like that's the next step to go forward. Buying a practice, that starts with 1 choice. Say, you know what? I am going to go take the leap and I'm going to do my own thing. And that starts with maybe 1 email to a broker. Say, hey, I'm looking at practices for sale in this area. Paying off your student loans, that starts with 1 payment. For when I paid off mine, it was through Nelnet. That probably started with a first payment of, I don't know, $1,000 or $2,500 or $5,000 or whatever it is. It started with that first one. And I think that first payment probably felt like I was shooting a BB gun at a freight train, but that first click, that got the wheels in motion. Going to a 3-day clinical week like I'm in the midst of now, that started with me sitting down and putting a block, you know, as far out as my schedule was booked. I said, all right, I'm blocking this Thursday off. I'm taking the leap to go to less clinical days. And you can insert your, you know, dental plus 1% here. Quote to summarize this: if you can keep stacking those 1% wins, one day you'll look back and you'll be blown away about how far you've come. This photo was taken in 2023. Is anyone familiar with Tough Mudder or done? Did you guys go into the one a couple weeks ago? Okay. I went and just did one of like the 5K or the 15K ones, and then I heard that in summer of 2023, Minneapolis was hosting one of their things called America's Toughest Mudder. And what that is it's a 10K loop, or 6.2 miles, that you complete as many times as you can. Starts at 8 o'clock at night, ends at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you see basically how far you go. This photo was taken during that event. When I completed that first Tough Mudder event, I never consider myself like American Ninja Warrior or any good at any of that sort of stuff, but I trained, and so I actually completed 60K of that event, completing 6 laps of it. This photo is literally like right at like 6:45 in the morning as I'm going through the ZAP, which is where you get electrocuted, as I'm going through for the last time, and I finished this. But I just never considered myself able to do that, but I put the training in, and I was able to come out with a pretty awesome result. Let's go to our last principle, and that is to stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself. So when it comes to this, we're going to go back to the race. And it's easy to talk to yourself when things are good. What you're seeing is the start of the race. And it's easy to have good vibes and good positive talk to, to yourself at that point. And it's easy to have the good positive self-talk, when you're fired up.
60 for the starting, 10 down, at least 50 to go. We got this.
So that was when I had completed 10 of the 60. I told you there's gonna be a lot of quotes in here. But the ultimate measure of a man or woman is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. In dentistry, I'll tell you what, there's plenty of days that are smooth and easy, and it's easy to have good self-talk and be measured well on the great days. And then there's other days where, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I get sucker punched like 4 times by like 10 o'clock. And it's really where you stand during those times. So our dentistry is definitely filled with challenge and controversy, and it's how we respond to those moments. That's from Martin Luther King. And so if we go to the race, I said it's easy to talk during good times, but how do we do during challenging times? So enter challenge and controversy. So, I don't know, this was somewhere in along the way. Got the Theragun out, got the Icy Hot, the ibuprofen, anything I needed to kind of keep things moving along. So before I finish the race part of the story, I'm going to share with you now that principle from a dental side. Look familiar? This is from, like I said, from Moose Tower, from the dental school. This was my first patient. This is the first human being, I guess, that put their faith in me to stick a needle in their mouth and drill on their teeth. And I don't remember why he smiled like that, but this is just kind of bringing me back. So this principle of stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself. I mean, if I go back to 2019 or even before that, I knew that like my vision, what I wanted was to be a practice owner. I knew that. And 2019, when I was an associate, I knew I had a lot to learn yet, but I was willing to bet on me. And at this time, I was in a challenging situation, and I'll never forget some unsolicited advice that I received along the way. Somebody told me, you're a pushover and you're weak. And if you ever had your own practice, you would run it into the ground. I'll keep this person anonymous too. So listening to myself after that, this was probably after a long, crappy day of work, and then I got that bomb dropped on me. And, listening to myself at that time sounded like, yeah, you know what if he's right? What if I'm not cut out for practice ownership? What if I don't have that it factor that it takes to run a successful dental practice? But then I probably got some rest and came back at it the next day, and I stopped listening to myself and I started talking to myself. Through this scenario, talking to myself sounded like this: I'll do whatever it takes to succeed as a practice owner. I'm not going to look back on my whole life and wonder what if I was always afraid to do my own thing, if I felt like I had to work for somebody else, and if I never had the grit to try things on my own. I believe in me with some of my self-talk, and I believe in us. And when I'm talking about the us, what you're seeing on this right hand of the screen is matching tattoos that my wife and I got on our 5th wedding anniversary. And this whole part of this diving into practice ownership is really something we did together. The symbolism behind the 2 arrows is always moving forward together. And another self-talk sounded like this: I know that if we get the chance, we're going to build something special. So I don't know about you. This photo was taken the day that we bought the office. At the time, it was branded as Wilmer Family Dentistry. I I don't know about you, but an amazing team like this, over 360 5-star Google reviews, by far the most in our region. Nearly 2 million in collections in 2023. And most recently for 2024 got voted best dental office for our region. Just got the plaque. I don't know about you, but I don't know if I would classify that as running this into the ground. So sometimes you got to be careful who you listen to and how it dictates your self-talk. And maybe you got to control whose talk comes into your ears. So back to the run. We're halfway home and enter my friend and colleague. A good friend, when I was in his area, I said, hey, do you want to come out and say hi? I'm going to be doing this race. A true friend says, what time are you going to be running the back 30 miles? So my friend Rob showed up and ran the back 30 miles with me. And we finally arrived back at this point right here that we started at the very beginning. Listening to myself at this point of the race sounded like this. My legs and my feet hurt like hell. Listening to myself 46 miles into this thing sounded like, man, I just wish I could just fast forward to the end. Listening to myself sounded like, I can't imagine doing another freaking lap of this course. But then I stopped listening to myself and I started talking to myself. Talking to myself at this point sounded like this. I don't care how long this takes, I am finishing this thing. I told myself I didn't care if I had to walk, I was not going to leave until my watch said 60. Prior to this event, I proclaimed to the world that I was going to go run this 60 miles and I was going to raise the $6,000, and I'm a man of my word, and I didn't want to be made a liar. At 46, I was sitting there thinking, I did not come this far to quit. And ultimately, the most powerful mantra that got me through this thing was, don't stop when you're tired, stop when it's done. Don't stop when you're tired, stop when it's done. And I lost count how many times I said this statement. And a lot of it was aloud, it was to me, to Rob, to me, to back and forth of just kind of helping fuel through this whole finish. Don't stop when you're tired, stop when it's done. You know, and at first it was every lap, then it was probably every mile, and ultimately at the end, it was probably every minute that we were saying this to get through this thing. So ultimately, the official race did end at sunset, but I still had about 1 mile left to go. So finally, after 11 hours and 49 minutes, the race had ended, and so what we just did is we started doing some out and backs, basically calculating how long it was going to take until my Garmin hit 60. After 11 hours and 49 minutes, I did it, we did it, crossed the finish line. I can't tell you how much relief that felt to just finally get that finished. There's your proof from the Garmin. It gave me an extra 4/10. Super grateful for all the support I had during this. One of which my wife, supporting not only for training, but also the full day of being there. My sister ran the event and she logged 40 some miles of herself and won the female side. And then, like I said, my friend and colleague Rob, who came out and ran the back 30 miles with me. To kind of final recap everything, distance completed, I did complete the 60.04 miles. This took 11 hours and 49 minutes to complete. And in the coming days, as things closed up, finally, when all was said and done, we raised $7,200. Half the money, this went to a nonprofit called Food for Kids. Half the money went to relief areas in Haiti, and the other half went to relief efforts in Uganda. So, to recap my mission for today, it was to share my 3 biggest takeaways from running this 60-mile ultra marathon to help inspire you to accomplish amazing things in both your personal and your dental life. And I hope that I delivered on that. I might let this go and I might just re-say this part. As it like totally killed the buzz of like,
We'll cut that.
it's not like it was at like the peak ending, but anyway, to recap my mission for today. My goal was to share my 3 biggest takeaways from running a 60-mile ultra marathon to help inspire you to accomplish amazing things in both your personal and your dental life. And I hope that I delivered on that. Thank you for your attention.